श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरण मोहन जू की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शत शिमार भक्तिग्रंथ नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शत शिमार भक्तिग्रंथ वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शत शिमार भक्तिग्रंथ साई महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शत शिमार भक्ति विज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्टो विष्णुपाद अष्टतर शत शिमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गोक्षर स्वामी महाराज की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूपानुवर्य गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ चार गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर प्रसाद वृंद की जय। नामचय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौरमंडल ब्रजमंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदत्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। नित्य प्रविष्ट शिशिमार भक्ति वैभव पुरी गोसाई महाराज की जय। तदीय शुभ थिरुभाव तिथि की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीश्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणीति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पदां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिषे नमः। गुरवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तरभक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्थो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतं। नष्टप्रयेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भगवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां शरणन्तिकं। भक्त्या विहीना अपराधलक्षाय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरां कमते। कृपामयि त्वां शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दं। भज श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्तवृन्द। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Haribol, everybody. Haribol, Rukmini Didi, Dandavat Pranams, Pradumna Prabhu, and Mantaramurti Mataji. So, yeah, I'm at the Bhaktivedanta Research Center still, and I'm sitting just next to the steps because the Wi-Fi is up here, but Wi-Fi doesn't seem to be working for me right now, so I'm using my mobile data. One second. Sit there out of the way so I'm not in the stairwell anymore. Haribo Madhavi Didi. Alright, so I have an extremely busy day today and tomorrow and the next day. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Hopefully we can finish this chapter today. Okay, so let's just read previous verses that we read. And I'm using my mobile data right now, so let me know if it's not working well. I tried using both the other connections that they have here, and it seems like my mobile data was better. So these are the previous verses we read. If the countless, this is Stuti, the personified. They said, in the past couple days, this is what we read. If the countless living entities were all-pervading and possessed forms that never changed, you could not possibly be their absolute ruler, O immutable one. But since they are your localized and their forms are subject to change, you do control them. Indeed, that which supplies the ingredients for the generation of something is necessarily its controller, because a product never exists apart from its ingredient cause. It is simply illusion for someone to think that he knows the Supreme Lord, who is equally present in each of his expansions, since whatever knowledge one gains by material means must be imperfect. Neither material nature nor the soul who tries to enjoy her are ever born, yet living bodies come into being when these two combine, just as where water meets the air. And just as rivers merged into the ocean, or the nectar from many different flowers blends into honey, so all these conditioned beings eventually merge into you, the Supreme, along with their various names. The wise souls who understand your Maya deludes all human. The wise souls who understand how your Maya deludes all human beings render potent loving service to you, who are the source of liberation from birth and death. How indeed can fear of material life affect your faithful servants? On the other hand, your furrowing eyebrows, the triple-rimmed wheel of time, repeatedly terrify those who refuse to take shelter of you. The mind is like an impetuous horse that even persons who have regulated their senses and breath cannot control. Those in this world who tame the uncontrolled mind, but who abandon the feet of their spiritual master, encounter hundreds of obstacles in their cultivation of various distressful practices. O unborn Lord, they are merchants on a boat in the ocean. They are like merchants on a boat in the ocean who have failed to employ a helmsman. Those persons who take shelter of you, you reveal yourself. Oops, I'm not reading. I forgot to share the screen. Sorry about that. To those persons who take shelter of you, you reveal yourself as a supersoul, the embodiment of transcendental pleasure. What further use such devotees for their servants, children, or bodies, their wives, money, or houses, their land, good health, or conveyances? And for those who fail to appreciate you and go on pursuing the pleasures of sex, what could there be in this a place inherently doomed to destruction and devoid of significance that could ever give them real happiness? Sages free from false pride live on this earth by frequenting the sacred pilgrimage sites and those places where the Supreme Lord displayed his pastimes. Because such devotees keep your lotus feet within their hearts, the water that washes their feet destroys all sins. Anyone who even once turns his mind toward you, the ever blissful soul of all existence, no longer dedicates himself to serving family life, which simply robs a man of his good qualities. It may be proposed that this is permanently real because it is generated from the permanent reality. But such an argument is subject to logical refutation. Sometimes, indeed, the apparent non-difference of cause and its effect fails to prove true, and at other times, the product of something real is illusory. Furthermore, this world cannot be permanently real, for it partakes of the natures of not only the absolute reality, but also the illusion disguised. Actually, the visible forms of this world are just an imaginary arrangement resorted to by the possession of ignorant persons in order to facilitate their material affairs. With their various meanings and implications, the learned words of your Vedas bewilder all whose minds have been deluded by hearing the incantations of sacrificial rituals. So this is where we read to yesterday. And I'm hoping to finish this chapter today. Hare Krishna, Cakravartī, Dandavat Pranam. Okay, so this is what we read yesterday, right? Yes. Okay, verse 37. Nayadidam agra asana bhavishyar ato nidhanat anumitang antaratayi vibhati mrishaikarase ata upamiyate dravina jati vikalpapatar vitatamano vilasamritamit Oh wait, I forgot to check the sound. Is it using my... One second. Haribol Bhavatarani Mataji. Mic. Okay, now I'm using my mic. Since this universe did not exist prior to its creation, and will no longer exist after its annihilation, we can conclude that in the interim, it is more than a manifestation imagined to be visible within you, whose spiritual enjoyment never changes. We liken this universe to the transformation of various material substances into diverse forms. Certainly, those who believe that this figment of the imagination is substantially real are less intelligent. Sārārtha-darśinī commentary by Śrīla Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura. The personified Vedas repeat what they previously said with logic and clarity by presenting positive evidence to prove that the world is unreal and that it is temporary. The Shruti say, this known universe did not exist before its creation, and it will not exist after the upcoming annihilation. It exists only between these two as an object of knowledge. Then Lord Narayan asks, where does this happen? The Shrutis respond, it happens within you, the Supreme Lord who considers, let me create such an illusory world. This world cannot be eternal, since it did not exist before, and it will be destroyed in the future. It is shown to be real by comparing it with clay and gold, which transform into pots and golden earrings. It is not false like the silver seen in an oyster shell, or the rope mistaken for a snake. The word vi in vibhati appears, indicates the perceivable nature of the creation. Moreover, the jnanis who think that this world is false, a mere mental fantasy, and the karma mīmaṁsas who think it is real and eternally existing, are both unintelligent. They are both abuddha. Okay. Sayada Jayatvajam Anushita Gunangscha Jusham Bhajati Sarupatang Taranumrityum Apeta Bhaga Tvam Uttajahasitam Ahiriva Tvachamata Bhago Mahasi Mahisyase Shtagunite Parimeya Bhaga. The illusory material nature attracts the minute living entity to embrace her, and as a result, he assumes forms composed of her qualities. Subsequently, he loses all his spiritual qualities and must undergo repeated deaths. You, however, avoid the material energy in the same way that a snake abandons its old skin. Glorious in your possession of 8 perfections, you enjoy unlimited opulences. Commentary. Having declared the reality of the world composed of the 3 modes of material nature and designated by the term idam, the Shrutis now speak of the jiva. Although the jiva is pure spirit, qualitatively equal with God, he becomes degraded under the power of material illusion, maya. The Shruti said, entranced by the allurements of maya, the pure becomes covered by ignorance and the qualities of material nature. Thus tainted by material designations, he accepts bodies and senses produced from the raw material of Maya's 3 modes, goodness, passion, and nescience. Subsequently, his qualities, like bliss, become covered, and he undergoes repeated birth and death in this world. Lord Narayan. But since I, the Supreme Soul, share the same spiritual nature as the individual spiritual soul, do I also get covered by ignorance? Shrutis. No, this can never happen. The jiva is an infinitesimal particle of consciousness, whereas you are the vast repository of consciousness. Smoke may engulf the glow of a small molten sphere of gold, brass, or copper, but it can never cover the vast light of the sun. You, on the other hand, leave Maya aside. The meaning is this. The material Maya potency is the outward expansion of Krishna's internal potency. Her powers are described in the Narad Pandratara in a conversation between Shruti and Vidya. Asya avari shaktir Maya Kileshwari Yaya Mugdham Jagat Sarvam Sarve Deha Bhimannina. The covering potency derived from Yoga Maya is called Mahamaya, the controller of the world. She bewilders the entire universe, and thus every living being falsely identifies with his material body. The Shrutis continued. Mahamaya is only a partial expansion of your Yogamaya and is not regarded by you as part of your internal energy. Thus, she becomes separated from you and left aside. She is called your external, your Bahiranga Maya Shakti. Just as a snake casts aside its old skin, knowing that it is not part of his essential identity, you always avoid Mahamaya because you are not eternally endowed with intrinsic glories. To further reinforce their statement, the Shruti said, you are worshipped in your 8-fold mystics, such as Anima and Mahima. That's the power to become infinitesimal and the ability to become infinitely large. What is their nature? You have unlimited powers, unlike the powers of others which are limited by time and space. And your power is immeasurable because it is intimately related to your internal nature. In this regard, the Shvetashvatar Upanishad 5.4.5 something says, Ajam ekam lohita shukla krishnam vavi prajasrijra manam swarupa ajo hyeko jusha mano nushete jahatena bhukta bhogam ajonya. One unborn person, the jiva, is serving the unborn material nature, which generates numerous material bodies for the living entities, and is composed of goodness, passion, and ignorance. The other unborn person, the Paramatma, is detached from the enjoyment of material nature. Yadina samudaranti yatayo hridika kajata duradikamo satam hridigato smrita kantamani asutripayoginam ubhayato pyasukam bhavan anapagatantakaranadirudhapadarbhavata. Haribol and Dira Mataji. Members of the renounced order who fail to uproot material desire in their hearts remain impure, and thus you do not allow them to understand you. Although within their hearts, for them you are like a jewel worn around the neck of a man who has totally forgotten it is there. O Lord, those who practice yoga only for sense gratification must suffer punishment both in this life and the next, from death, who will not release them, and from you, whose kingdom they cannot reach. Commentary. Thus, in verses, it was established that mundane homes steal away a man's essential qualities. The sages who are mentioned in the verses are of two kinds: the worshippers of the formless Brahman called Gyanis, and the worshippers of qualitative Brahman called Bhaktas or devotees. Both attain success by remaining free and by strict adherence to their paths. However, if these aspiring transcendentalists misbehave, then they attain the disastrous results described in these two verses. The Shruti said, O Bhagavan, if the sannyasi worshippers of the impersonal Brahman do not uproot the lusty desires in their hearts, then you, though residing in their hearts, become most difficult to attain for such impure persons. How is this? Because you become like a forgotten jewel around their necks. Though the jewel is hanging there, because a person forgets about it, it is as good as not being there. Although such sannyasis make a pretense of yoga, they are primarily interested in sense enjoyment, so they only experience unhappiness and misery, both in this life and the next. In this connection, the personified Vedas describe how the impersonalistic renunciates who have failed to attain liberation must suffer life after life as a result of their painful endeavors to acquire name, fame, wealth, and sense gratification. The Mundaka Upanishad 3.2.2 confirms the statements of this verse. Kaman ya kamayate manmana sakarmabhir jayate tatra tatra. Even a thoughtful renunciate, if he maintains any worldly desires, will be forced by his karmic reactions to take birth again and again in various circumstances. Verse 40. Tvaravagamina veti avarutta shubhashubhayor guna vigunan vayangstarhi deha pritam chai. Guna vigunan vayangstarhi deha pritam chagira. Anuyugan vaham saguna gita paramparaya Shravana bhrito yatastvam apavarga gatir manujai. When a person realizes you, he no longer cares about his good and bad fortune arising from his past pious and sinful acts. When a person realizes you, he no longer cares about his good and bad fortune arising from past pious and sinful acts, since it is you alone who control this good and bad fortune. Such a realized devotee also disregards what ordinary living beings say about him. Every day he fills his ears with your glories, which are recited in each age by the unbroken succession of Manu's descendants, and thus you become his ultimate salvation. Wow, this is a nice verse. Commentary. In this verse, the Shrut explain how neophyte devotees, on the other hand, even though they may misbehave, still do not suffer in this life and the next, like the impersonal sannyasis. Rather, they attain success. One whose nature is to recognize you as his object of worship is not aware of the good or bad actions produced by you. In this regard, the Gopala Tapani Shruti, Purva 15, states, Bhaktya bhajanam tadha mutro padi nairasena mushmin mana kalpanam etad eva naishkam. Bhakti, devotional service, is the process of worshipping the Supreme Lord by concentrating the mind upon Him and renouncing all material desires for enjoyment both in this life and the next. Bhakti destroys all karmas. Since a devotee becomes free from all karmic reactions by worshiping you, the apparent good and bad events he experiences are not the result of his karma, but rather they are personally arranged by you. You do this in order to protect the confidentiality of devotion to you, or to avoid uprooting the opinions of atheists, or to increase the longing in your devotee. Or these apparently auspicious and inauspicious material reactions appear as results of offenses against devotees, Vaishnava Parad. You make these experiences appear in such a way that the devotee seems to be suffering the reactions of his karma. However, the devotee ignores the good and bad reactions of the work he does only for your pleasure. In other words, if someone praises him, this devotee is merciful, tolerant, and generous, or condemns him, this devotee is greedy, hypocritical, and attached to sense enjoyment, the devotee is not overly concerned about it. At these times, the humble devotee pays much attention to the words of any person, be he high or low, which praise or denounce him. I think that's so interesting. He doesn't take seriously or getting denounced. He thinks to himself, if these people mistakenly see good qualities in me and express praise, let them do it. If others see my real qualities of being attached to sense gratification and criticize me, then this is perfectly appropriate. Wow, I'm going to save this. The Shrutis then wait, let me just copy this really quick. So I'm going to save this. Highlight. Sorry, guys. Okay. How do I hide this? Hide notebook. Okay. The Shrutis then explain the reasoning behind this. By continually after day about you, who incarnate in every yuga and are the ocean of transcendental qualities, the mighty current of your Nam fills up the devotee's ears, and thus he quickly Krishna Prem for you, the ultimate goal. According to the prose statement in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 4:30, the phrase Apavarga Gatir, the goal of liberation, means the bestower of pure loving service, or else that destiny in comparison with even the four goals of life are most despicable. As Lord Shri Krishna states in the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, verses 51 to 53, Har aham pujaniyo vai bhadra Krishna nivasi bhi tad dharma gatinaye tasyam mai parayana kalina grasita ye vai tesham tasyam avastiti yatha tvam saha putraischa yatha rudo ganai saha yatha shriya bhiyukto ham tatha bhakto mama priya. Those who live in Bhadra Krishna, Mathura district, I am the object of all worship. Even if the residents of that place fail to properly cultivate the religious principles that one should observe in the Holy Land, they still become devoted to me just by virtue of living there. Even if Kali, the present age of quarrel, has them in his grip, they can still get credit for living in this place. My devotee who lives in Mathura is just as dear to me as you, Brahma, and your sons, Rudra and his followers, and Goddess Shri and my own self. In this verse, the phrases Tad Dharma Gati Hina and Kalina Grasita indicate wicked behavior, implying the idea, if one is wicked but lives in that Mathura. Thus, between the two worshippers, the fallen sannyasi and the fallen devotee in Mathura, the impersonalist sannyasi, among these two, the impersonalist sannyasi is criticized, and the devotee is praised by the Lord. Point is confirmed by Sri Krishna himself in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 18, verses 40 to 41. One second. Okay. Yes, tvamasamyata shad varga prachandendriya sarati gyan vairagya rahitas tridandam upajivati suran atmanam atmasam nihnutte mam cha dharmaha avipakva kashayosmad amushmach cha vihiyate. One who has not controlled the 6 forms of illusion, lust, anger, greed, envy, false pride, and intoxication, whose intelligence, the leader of the senses, is extremely attached to material things, who is bereft of knowledge and detachment, who adopts the sannyas order of life to make a living, who denies the worshipable demigods, his own self, and the Supreme Lord within himself, thus ruining all religious principles, and who is still infected by material contamination. That person is deviated and lost both in this life and the next. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna encourages his devotee, Apichet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadureva samantavya samyagvyavasito hisa. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. That's Bhagavad Gita 9:30. In this way, Lord Shri Krishna praises his devotee. By all means, the Lord agrees with the Shrutis, who are his followers at the end of their praise. By all means, the Lord agrees with the Shrutis, who are his followers at the end of their praises of him. Dupataya eva te nayayurantamanantataya tamapi yarantarandanyaya nanusavarana ka ivarajang sivanti vayasa sahayachrutayas tvaihi palantyanan nirasanena bhavanidhana. I didn't mess up. Because you are unlimited, neither the lords of heaven nor even you yourself can ever reach the end of your glories. The countless universes, each enveloped in its shell, are compelled by the wheel of time to wander within you, like particles of dust blowing about in the sky. The Shrutis, following their method of eliminating everything separate from the Supreme, become successful by revealing you as their final conclusion. Commentary. The Shrutis were attempting to define the absolute truth on the pretext of glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the vast ocean of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. But since they could not reach the limit of his glories, they gave up and concluded their prayers, indicating that they were all in agreement. The following conversation between Lord Narayan and the personified Vedas illuminates the meaning of this final prayer of the Shrutis. The Vedas said, Lord Brahma and the other rulers of the heavenly planet cannot find the end of your glories. What can we do then, since we are insignificant in comparison to these great demigods? Lord Narayan replied, No, you Shrutis are gifted with more sublime vision than those demigods. You will be able to reach the end of my glories if you do not stop now. Shrutis. But even you cannot find your own limit. Lord Narayan. If that is the case, what do you mean when you say that I am all-knowing and all-powerful? The Shrutis. We conclude that you possess these features from the very fact that you are limitless. Certainly, ignorant of something that does not even exist, like a rabbit's horn, that does not detract from his omniscience. A rabbit's horn? That's the funniest. A rabbit unicorn. Okay. But no, that does not. Sorry. So, certainly, if one is ignorant of something that does not even exist, like a rabbit's horn, that does not detract from his omniscience. And if one fails to find such a non-entity, that does not limit his omnipotence. You are so vast that multitudes of universes float within you. Each of these universes is surrounded by 7 shells composed of the material elements. Each of these concentric shells is 10 times larger than the one within it. Although we can never fully describe the truth about you, we perfect our existence by declaring that you are the true topic of the Vedas. Lord Narayan. But why do you seem dissatisfied? Shrutis. Because in the Vedas, Srila Vyasadeva has described the transcendental existence of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan only briefly. When he saw the need to elaborate on this description of the Supreme, he chose to concentrate on the object of Brahman, the impersonal aspect of the Supreme known as Tat, that. He described Brahman by negating whatever is different from it. Just as in a field where a chest of jewels has been accidentally spilled, the jewels can be repaired by removing unwanted stones, twigs, and refuse. Similarly, within the visible realm of Maya and her creations, the absolute truth can be found by a process of elimination. We Vedas cannot possibly enumerate every material category, individual entity, quality, and motion in the universe from the beginning to the end of time. Even if we tried to describe all these things and then discarded them, the truth concerning Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan would still remain untouched. Therefore, by this means of investigation, we can never expect to reach a final definition of you. Only by your mercy can we make some attempts to approach you, the supremely inaccessible absolute truth. Sorry. This idea has been indicated previously in verses 14, 27, 32, and 2. There are many and it gives the first line of those verses. There are many statements of Shruti that describe the process of distinguishing the Supreme from everything inferior. Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 3.8.8, for example, states, Astulam ananu arasvam adirgham alohitam asneham achayam atmano vaivanakasham arasam agandam achakshusha achakshuksham sorry ashrutam agamano tejaskam apranam asukam amatram anantaram abhayam. Sorry guys, I'm really tired right now. It is neither big nor small, short nor long, hot nor cool, in the shadow nor in darkness. Nor is it the wind or the ether. It is not in contact with anything, and it taste, smell, eyes, ears, motion, potency, life, air, pleasure, measurement, inside or outside. So now Bhagavan replies to the Shrutis, Mahavishnu. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tetar Brahmana Putra Ashrutyatmanushasana Sanandanam Athanarchu Siddha Gyatvatmano Gatim. The Supreme Lord, Sri Narayan Rishi, said, having heard these instructions about the Supreme Self, the of Godhead. Having heard these instructions about the personality of Godhead, the sons of Brahma now understood their final destination. They felt perfectly satisfied and they honored Sanandana with their worship. Commentary. By hearing the 28 prayers of the personified Vedas, which comprise 2 of this chapter, the sons of Brahma assembled in Brahmaloka made great progress toward their goal of pure love of God, Bhagavat Prem. Just checking the comments, everything's running. Looks like it. Okay. Ityashishra samamnaya Puranopanishad-rasa samudhrita purvajatar vyomayanar mahatmabhi. Thus, the ancient saints who travel in the upper heavens distilled this nectarian and confidential essence of the Vedas. Tvam chaitar brahmadayada shradayatmanushasanam dharayanscharagam kamanam bharjanam nrinam. As you wander the earth at will, my dear son of Brahma, you should faithfully meditate on these instructions concerning the science of the self, which burn up the material desires of all men. Comment. Sri Narayan Rishi said, O Narad, son of Brahma, with great faith, take this supreme teaching which destroys attachments to the world and wander on this earth as you desire. Now verse 45. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam sa rishina dishtam grihitva shraddayatmavan purna shrutta dharo rajan ahavira vrato muni. Shukadev Goswami said, when Sri Narayan Rishi ordered him in this way, the self-possessed sage Narad, whose vow is as heroic as a warrior's, accepted the command with firm faith. Now successful in all his purposes, he thought about what he had heard, O king, and replied to the Lord as follows. Commentary. Meditating on the meaning of what he had heard, Narad held strongly to his promise and replied to Narayan Rishi. Śrīnāda-uvaca Namastasmai Bhagavate Krishnaya Malakirtaye Yodhatte Sabhutanam Abhavayo Shati Kala. Shri Narada said, I offer my obeisances to him of spotless fame, the Supreme Lord Krishna, who manifests his all-attractive personal expansions so that all living beings can achieve liberation. Commentary. Narad, discerning the real meaning of the Vedas prayers, then openly acknowledges in this verse the supreme position of Krishna, even above Narayan. Among the different spiritual paths such as Gyan and Yoga mentioned in the Shrutis praises, Bhakti is the best. Among the different worshippers, the devotees are the best. And among the objects of worship, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, Bhagavan is best. Narad Muni has concluded this from all the statements of the Shrutis. He has further concluded that even in Bhagavan, however, Krishna is the supreme, as understood from verses 17 and 23. To indicate this, Narada loudly recites this verse directly in front of Narayan. Namastasmai Bhagavate. I offer my respects to Bhagavan Shri Krishna. To say Namastu Bhyam Narayanaya, I offer my respects to Narayan, would have been contrary to his feelings. Narad said, I offer my respects to he who is famous for removing the contamination of ignorance by giving liberation even to the demons. That's Krishna, right? Lord Narayan Rishi asked, why are you offering your respects to Krishna instead of me, your guru, who am standing here before you? Narad replied, Krishna accepts various beautiful forms, such as yourself, to end the conditioned soul's material life. By offering obeisances to Sri Krishna, therefore, Narad honors Narayan Rishi and all other incarnations of Godhead as well. This prayer of Narad's is the essential nectar he has extracted from the personified Vedas prayers, which themselves were churned from the sweet ocean of all secrets contained in Vedas and Puranas. As the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, Purva 50, recommends, Tasmat Krishna eva paro devastam dhyayet tang rasayet tang bhajet tang yajed iti. Om Tat Sat. Therefore, Krishna is Supreme Godhead. One should worship Krishna, surrender fully to Krishna, meditate on Krishna, and relish the taste of reciprocating loving exchanges with Krishna. 47. Ityadyam rishaman namya tachishyangscha mahatmana tato gad ashramam shakshat pitur dvaipayanasyame. Shukadev Goswami continued, after saying this, Narad bowed down to Sri Narayan Rishi, the foremost of sages, and also to his saintly disciples. He then returns to the hermitage of my father, Dvaipayan Vyas. Commentary. The word iti can mean either method or completion. Thus, there are two meanings of this verse. Narad paid respects to Narayan Rishi in this manner by reciting prayers to Krishna. Then he left his ashram and went to Vyasadev's ashram. Then he left Narayan Rishi's ashram and went to Vyasadev's ashram. Or the meaning can be, after completing his prayers to Krishna, Narad Muni offered his respects to Narayan Rishi and went to the ashram of Dev. I don't see the difference. Anyways. Sabhaji, let me check again. Alright. Sabhajito Bhagavata Kritasana Parigraha Tasmai Tad Varnayam Asa Narayana Mukhachrutam. Vyasadeva, the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, respectfully greeted Narad Muni and offered him a seat, accepted. Narad then describes to Vyas what he had heard from the mouth of Sri Narayan Rishi. Commentary. Being honored by Vyas with a respectable seat, Narad sat down and described to Vyas the knowledge of God he had heard from Narayan. Ityetar varnitam rajan yana prashna kritastvaya yatha brahmanya nirdeshye nirgunepi manascharet. Thus I have replied to the question you asked me, O king, concerning how the minds can have access to the absolute truth, which is indescribable by material words and devoid of material qualities. Commentary. Shukadeva Goswami said, O Dikshit, I have replied to you how the minds conceive of God, who is beyond material concerns and without material qualities. The answer is, the mind can perceive God by the power of devotion, bhakti, arising from the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Yosyot prekshaka adi madhya nidadhane. Wait, what's the meter for this? Okay. Yosyot prekshaka adi madhya nidhane yovyakta jiveshvaro rishtvedam anupravishya rishina chakre pura shastita yam sampadya jahatadam anushayi supta kulayam yata tam kaivalya nirastayopayam dhyayed ajasram harim. So I didn't know what the meter was for that. He is the Lord who externally watches over this universe, who exists before, during, and after its manifestation. He is the master of both the unmanifest material energy and the spirit soul. After sending forth the creation, he enters within it, accompanying each living entity. There, he creates the material bodies and then remains as the regulator. By surrendering to him, one can escape the embrace of illusion, just as a dreaming person forgets his own body. One who wants liberation from fear should constantly meditate upon him, Lord Hari, who is always on the platform of perfection and thus never subject to material birth. Commentary. Summarizing the meaning of all the prayers of the personified Vedas, Shukadev makes us again remember the facts. By glancing upon the dormant universe at the time of sending forth the jiva souls into creation, the Supreme Lord provides all their necessities. For the fruit of workers, for the karmis, Krishna provides the intelligence, mind, senses, and pran needed to achieve the fruits of their karma, namely material sense enjoyment. For the jnanis, the Lord provides the intelligence by which they can attain liberation by merging into his spiritual effulgence. And for the devotees, the bhakta, the Lord helps them attain his association in an eternal loving relationship. Thus, in each of these ways, the Supreme Lord thinks of where he is each jiva in the material realm. It is the Supreme Lord alone who is constantly present before, during, and after the manifestation of the created cosmos. Lord Narayan himself states this in the Chatushloki of the Bhagavatam. Aham evasam evagre nanyad yad sadasat param paschad aham yadet tachcha paschad aham yadet chachcha yo vashishyeta sosmyaham. It is I, the personality of Godhead, who is existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself. Nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the Personality of Godhead. That's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 2.9.33. Next, Shukadev describes how the Supreme Lord is the cause and controller of everything in the entire universe, which is composed of Maya and the Jiva. Because they are both his energies, and because they are not different from their source, the Shaktiman, the unmanifest nature, Maya, and the Jiva are both him alone. This establishes that the Supreme Lord is the ingredient cause of creation. He is the Upadan Karan. The efficient cause, he is the Nimitta Karana, and also the Supreme Controller. Shukadev Goswami then speaks how the Supreme Lord also acts by entering the universe to effect the secondary creation, Visarga. After creating this universe, the Supreme Lord creates the bodies of the demigods, men, animals, and others through the agency of, and he them by his expansions as the Paramatma, who, like a Vedic sage, is untouched by material contamination. The word Rishina therefore has two functions here. Then Shukadeva explains how the Jiva can transcend material existence by to the Lord. By surrendering to the Supreme Lord, the Jiva, who is helplessly bound up in the embrace of illusion, falls like a rod to pay obeisances at the Lord's feet. By that surrender, the soul becomes totally free from Maya. The soul becomes totally free from Maya, all the objects of this world. According to Sridhar Swami, the word Anushayi means that the Jiva lies down paying dandavats again and again to the Lord. But it could be argued that the devotee, even though he is surrendered to, still has a material body. Therefore, Shukadev says, a liberated soul pays no more regard to his body than a sleeping man pays to his body while busily engaged far, far away in his dream world. This means that the devotee gives up ignorance by abandoning his false identification with his material body. It should be understood, however, that sometimes this giving up of ignorance is not based on proper surrender to the Lord, as in the case of impersonalists. But in some cases, the Lord may show special consideration for one he favors, regardless of whether any sadhana has been performed. Even if a jiva has not practiced solitary bhajan for attaining liberation, still the Lord causes the womb of the living entity's illusion to be dispelled, nirasta. In the words of Sri Bhishmadev, Yam iha niriksha hata gata swarupam. Those who simply saw Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attains their original forms after being killed. That's Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1.9.39. That even demons like Aga, Baka, and Keshi were liberated by Sri Krishna without having performed any spiritual practices, an indication of Sri Krishna's unique position as the original personality of Godhead. Knowing this, one should abandon all his doubts and fear of the various philosophers who speak nonsense under the sway of their own karma and the force of time. One should then incessantly meditate upon Lord Hari, who, by his charming sweetness, steals away the mind of those endowed with prema. I, Śrīla Cakravartī Ṭhākura, take the opportunity to offer this humble prayer. He bhakta dvarayam panchad valakirotivo manak prasadam lavatang yasmad vishishta Śrīvanātati. This person with an unsteady, dull mind is offering prayers at your door. You should let him have a little mercy, since he is expert and quickly does the soliciting. Wait, let me reread that. O devotees, this person with an unsteady, dull mind is offering praises at your door. You should let him have a little mercy, since he is expert and quickly does the soliciting. The word chanchad valadi can also mean wagging tail. A wagging tail, like a dog? Dog wags his tail. Since valadi means tail according to Pratam Yasmad Vishish. Since valadi means tail according to the Amar Kosh dictionary, thus the meaning would be as follows. O devotees, this poor creature standing at your doorway is wagging his tail and barking. please let him have a little prasadam so that he may become exceptional among dogs and get the best of masters as his owner. What a beautiful prayer. Embedded in the last line of the verse above is the word Viśvanātha. The word Vish, which means Vishishta, means exceptional. And Swa-iva, Shreva, means like a dog. And the word Nata, Natati, means having a master. Therefore, Viśvanātha means an exceptional dog having a master. Or the meaning of Viśvanātha can be one who begs in a special way. Or it can mean, this is the method of achieving the creation of the Lord of the universe, Viśvanātha. Thus ends the commentary on the 87th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam for the pleasure of the devotees in accordance with the previous acharyas. So tomorrow we will read chapter 88, Lord Shiva saved from Vrikasura. And I think we only have 3 chapters. Yeah, we only have 3 chapters left. So, all right. Hare Krishna. Oh, Bhavatarini Mataji, sorry, I missed that part. Hare Krishna Rajbhuvan Yadavji. Hari Bol Rukmini Didi. Yeah, that was such a nice ending, wasn't it? To the prayers of the personified Vedas. I mean, of that chapter. All right, so, oh my, I had such an amazing day yesterday, but I'll tell you about it tomorrow because today is a very busy day. Right after this, I have to finish. We're making the gift of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're making an audio version. I have to finish that right now, and then as finish that, then I visit my parents. They spent the night in a hotel, and then I'm driving to some person's place for lunch, and then we're going to Mayapur. I'm going to spend the night there, and then tomorrow morning I'll be in Mayapur. I'll read here, and then after that I have to go to Navadip and then do the book inventory, and then our parikrama starts. It's going to be very full on. These next all the way till Gaur Purnima actually, and we only have 3 chapters left, so unfortunately I might have to read those chapters. I might have to pre-record them and make those videos go live because I'm going to be out on parikrama during the daytime. But I'll do that, Rukmini Didi. So anyhow, I'm going to quickly end now, and then I'll see you tomorrow, and I'll tell you about how my day yesterday went. Also, it was a really awesome day. Anyways, okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari, Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai, Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Gurudev ki jai. Nitya Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishimad Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Pravishtam Vishnupad Rashata Rashata Shishimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Shila Gorkishoras Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Ṭhākura ki jai. Nitya Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopala Bhatta Dashagunath Shar Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Ṭhākur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gora Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Shruti Stuti ki jai, Shri Narad Rishi ki jai, Shri Narayan Rishi ki jai, Shri Srila Viśvanātha Cakravartī Ṭhākura ki jai, Sārārtha-darśinī vritti ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai, Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasha Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhu Bhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams everybody. Shri Shruti Stuti ki jai. Alright. So I'll see you all tomorrow, and we'll read. What is the chapter we're doing tomorrow again? Lord Shiva saved from Vrikasura. And then what's the next chapter? The next chapter is Krishna and Arjuna retrieve a Brahman's sons. And then summary of Lord Krishna's glories. So those are those. I think it will take us 4 days to get through them. They're like 6,000 words. 2 of the chapters were 6,000 words, and then one of the chapters was short. So yeah, I think 4 days will be in. All right, Dandavat pranams everybody. Haribol, Haribol.